I'm Taylor Hackford, and I'm extremely happy to be talking with Florian Zeller. He's in France, I'm in Los Angeles, and I want to talk to him about this extraordinary piece of work, The Father, which he has done many times. He happens to be a writer-director and started when he was quite young and actually has received huge acclaim in his early 20s. How dare you, Florian? But Florian wrote some novels and won top literary prizes in France, and then started writing for the stage. I mean, he's continued to write novels, and as has been incredibly successful in his writing for the stage. I want to talk to you about this particular work, and of course, we're going to talk about the film because the film is wonderful. But there is an antecedent. Tell me when you first wrote this play, The Father.
Yeah, so it's true. The Father was a play. I wrote it 8 years ago in French because, as you said, I'm French, as you can hear. And
Right.
I think that at the very beginning it was something personal because I went through this kind of situation with my grandmother. The film is about someone, or the play is about someone losing his bearings, and I have been raised by my grandmother, and she was so important in my life. But she started to suffer from dementia when I was 15. So in a way, I knew a bit about this painful process. But I was also aware that so many people are connected, unfortunately, to this issue. Everyone has a grandmother or a father, and so it was not about trying to tell my own story. This is what I'm trying to say. It was about trying to share emotions, because I think that art, especially theater, but also cinema, it's a lot about, sharing emotions and to make people feel that they are part of something bigger than themselves. And so
Well,
I wrote this. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I wrote this play, and I was surprised to see the response of the audience, because something special happened, meaning that people were waiting for us after every performances, just to tell their own story, just to share their own story. And I realized that something cathartic was at stake, precisely because we were feeling that we were all part of this painful humanity, and there is a consolation to remember that we are all together in a way in this boat, and I think that this is when I made the decision to make a film based on this play. When I realized that those emotions could be shared.
It's an extraordinary instance. I mean, it's brilliant insight and a very interesting perspective on the process of unfortunately losing one's faculties mentally. Yeah. But you were in your early 20s and wrote this extraordinary piece about people. And of course, I wanted to ask you if there was something personal in your life. And of course, you said it was your grandmother and people you really love who have been part of your life, and you understand their influence on you, their cogency, and the tragedy of seeing that go away. Anyway, I think it's quite extraordinary for you as a young man to make those communications to a general audience, and then, as you said, receive back a recognition from an audience.
Yeah, it was really. Sorry.
Go ahead. We have a little delay here, going back and forth. But the other thing that is interesting as a writer. And we'll get to the directing in a moment, but as a writer, you wrote a central role here that is extraordinary. Actors respond, actors are very canny, they're very smart, and they know when they get a good role, they grab it with their teeth. And, I thought the thing that was interesting is that, you produced, this play was first produced in Paris or in France. And there was an actor named Robert Hirsch who played it, who won the Moliere Award for Best Actor. And then it was done in London with Ken Cranham. And Ken Cranham, a wonderful, wonderful actor, won the Evening Standard Award as Best Actor. And then it went to New York, and Frank Langella played the role, and he won the Tony for this role. I mean, that's extraordinary on this play. It's obviously a gift to great actors. So after doing that and having those three, how did you come to the film and decide? Because I'm sure there was pressure from all of them saying I could play this on film. How did you go to another great actor, Anthony Hopkins?
To tell the truth, it's just that when I started dreaming about making that film, because everything starts with a dream, the one and only face that came to my mind was Anthony's. It's hard to tell exactly why, but it was my obsession. And, I knew it was not an easy dream to fulfill because, it's my first feature film. He is Sir Anthony Hopkins, and I'm French. But, I had this conviction that as soon as until someone comes and explains and proves you that it's not possible, it means that potentially it is. And so I made the decision, to follow my obsession and my desire and my conviction, because most of the time we are the ones who close the door, of what is possible and what is not possible. And this time I really didn't want to close that door and to follow my instinct. And so I wrote the script with him in mind. And that's the reason why the main character's name is Anthony. It was a way for me to make it this slightly irrealistic, to make it a bit more realistic, to me at least. And I remember that when I was sharing that idea with my friends, they were kindly laughing at me a bit. But so I sent the script to his agent, and one day I received a call of someone letting me know that Anthony wanted to meet with me. So I took a plane to Los Angeles to have breakfast with him, and we met, and this is how it started. And it was really such a conviction that he would be extraordinary in this part, and also because it would be the opportunity for him and for us to explore a new emotional territory, to go to this place of extreme fragility, extreme vulnerability. And so I thought that it would be very challenging and exciting for us to try to go in this new territory.
I think Anthony Hopkins is, we know, magnificent actor, a huge talent. But, when you do that and you have out there a world of an audience who's used to seeing him win the Academy Award and being great, but honestly, he is extraordinary in The Father. He really is extraordinary. And I'm sure he understood that. That's the problem with an actor. He's done all these great roles. It's like, give me something to put my teeth into. And he definitely did with this piece. You see him dissemble in front of your eyes, and at the same time roar back with this kind of, sometimes he's confused, other times he comes in this force. You have a sense of who this man was. I think the great thing about the performance and what you did, now we'll talk about as a director. Sometimes when people are lost in their minds, you think, who is that? The great thing about Anthony, and I'm not talking about Anthony Hopkins, although he's embodying the role, I'm talking about the character Anthony in your film. I knew who he was all the way through, even in his confusion. He had an indelible impact, and I think that's extraordinary.
Thank you so much, Taylor. It means a lot to me coming from you. And it's true that what I wanted to do for the audience is to experience his own disorientation. I wanted The Father to be not only a story, but more like an experience, and to put the audience in a unique position, as if they were trying to understand, as if the viewer was like going through a labyrinth, trying to figure it out, trying to understand where we are not, and that scene, is it before, after, and that character, who is exactly, in order to, and it was an opportunity for me to play with this feeling of disorientation, destabilization, because what I wanted the audience is, in a way, to be in this main character's head, and not to tell the story from the outside, but to really to feel what it could mean to lose your bearings and to try to fight, to understand, or to look for the logic in that world,
That's what I think is extraordinary about this piece as a whole, is that you are seeing it from the old man's point of view, and it's cogent. It's he's seeing everything and responding, but he also knows within this something is going on because he has a memory of something that just happened that now changes, and he's confused by this. But I think as a director, now we'll forget about you as the playwright and say that you received this script. Let's talk about you as the director, because I do believe, of course, I did not see it on stage, but I loved what you did visually. And I believe that with film, with the process of motion photography and with design, because design is very important in this film, that what you did was you went into the character and through his eyes, you saw his world shifting and changing. From an audience point of view, we're in his head and his point of view. And as that happens, we're starting to question ourselves, what is reality? And I think you must have had a fantastic collaboration with your designer, with your set decorator, because this world takes place in this apartment. But that apartment shifts subtly and changes. You know, everything flows. It just flows from one scene to the next to the next. But you did, didn't you, start playing with the audience's mind with paintings that are on the wall, then they're not on the wall, or just changing things around. And I think it works beautifully.
Thank you so much. It's true that it was part of the challenge to try to find a visual way to play with this disorientation. And I remember when I wrote the script, I drew the layout of the apartment, you know, from the very beginning, as if it was one of the main character, because I wanted that layout, that set, to become like a labyrinth, you know, when you have to go through. And at the beginning of the story, we are in Anthony's apartment. You know, there is no doubt about it. You recognize his space, his pieces of furniture, and step by step, as subtle as possible, always in the background, there are some small changes or small metamorphoses in the set. Something like some pieces of furniture are disappearing, or sometimes we change the colors or the proportion, so that as a viewer, you have this strange feeling. You recognize where we are, and at the same time, you are not that certain. You're doubting about where you are or where you are not anymore. And it was a way to use the sets in a cinematic way to make everything more and more confused. And it was, as you said, working with the set designer, Peter Francis, it was so exciting to find the delicate balance, you know, not to be too explicative, not to be too obvious, you know, to do it always in the background, but still you have the feeling that something has changed. You cannot tell exactly what happened, but just the feeling that something had happened, you know, something has changed. And it was really exciting to do this. And so we shot the whole film in a studio in London, and the whole thing was, you know, to shoot everything in the same space, but with a new set. I mean, a new decor all the time. So it was a very it was as if we were ourselves getting dementia sometimes, you know, because we didn't know anymore exactly who we were.
Yeah, it works. I think the other thing that makes it work is that your cinematographer, Ben Smithard, was very, very wonderful. He's really good. But that doesn't change. The photography stayed the same all the way through. So, you know, if you said, oh, we're in a different time frame, so let's change the look of the film pictorially, then you'd obviously know. Instead, you're playing with the audience's mind, because the photography looks exactly the same. You're seeing it as though it's his reality. But within the frame, within the apartment, it's constantly changing, which makes the audience go, you know, I think the thing that's great is that it makes the audience question their own sanity as they're watching,
exactly.
Which is what
the whole point.
Yeah. I think
it's true that, you know, when you are talking about like a subjective experience in films, the temptation is always to use the camera or the lighting to, you know, to make people understand that this is not the reality anymore. And here, what I really wanted to do is to shoot everything as if it was realistic. so that you have to take it into account. And even if there is like a contradiction with what you have seen previously, you have to deal with those contradictions. And it's like very challenging. And I love that as a viewer, when you are not just sitting and watching a story already told, but when you have to try to make it work, when you have to try to be in an active position, in a way, the film to me is like a puzzle. And you can play with all the combinations, with all the pieces of that puzzle to try to make it work. But it will never work in a way, because there is always one piece that is missing, and it was the whole game to do so.
Well, I think that oftentimes, when a great play is produced, it becomes sought after. Let's make a film out of it. Many times, it's very difficult to free the visuals from the play. You realize you're in a play. This, I think, was a really wonderful cinematic experience. And I want to compliment you on the fact that I'm in that man's head. I'm in his world. The performances, and we'll talk about that now in a couple of seconds, were extraordinary, but you made it cinematic. And you freed it, and I've obviously it was a hugely successful play. So I'm not saying that was the case. I mean, you got it, you got the soul of it, but you had to do something else besides what was on the stage. You did, and I think that process of allowing the audience to question their own sensibilities, allow them. What you're trying to communicate is this is a human being, a human being who is loved. His daughter is there. You clearly know that she reveres this man, and he raised her in a wonderful way. And it's tragic. She's losing the person she knew, but you're not from her. We see that, but we're not from her perspective. We're from his, and I think that's a quite extraordinary thing with this piece. Now let's talk about the further casting, because Olivia Colman, fantastic actress, is playing his daughter. But you didn't stop there. You have Olivia Colman, but you're also playing, in addition to changing the set and changing our perspective, which is Anthony Hopkins' perspective, you're changing the characters. So you see Olivia Colman, and then all of a sudden, it's, he's there and he sees somebody and he doesn't know who that person is. Nor do we, but it becomes Olivia Williams, and then it becomes Imogen Poots, and all of these people who come into his life and he thinks are going to be the person he saw yesterday, and you played with that too, which I think does another brilliant thing, which is, again, this is cinematic. The flesh and blood on the screen then becomes an image, also becomes a dream, and you're questioning your reality, his reality, because those people again are real and their names are not changed. Paul changes, I think, twice. And you've got just fantastic actors, Rufus Sewell. Really, really great people. Obviously, we're drawn to this. Mark Gaddis. The sense that you had an ensemble who were playing each other in a funny way. The only person who doesn't change is Anthony Hopkins. He stays the same, but the characters around him, and you get a sense of his own realization that he must be going mad.
Yeah, again, it was a way for me to make the audience experience what it could mean, not to recognize someone you are supposed to know well, because as you said, he's suddenly in front of another actress or another character, but this character is claiming to be his daughter, and as him, we saw her before. We saw Olivia Colman, so we are in his point of view. There is a contradiction, and we are like him. We are like, I am the only one who doesn't understand what is happening anymore. And it was a way, as I said, to be in his head and to experience that. But I think that, the brain is trying to understand everything, to try to make it work. But what I wanted to do is to come to this point where the brain is not capable to understand everything, and in a way you have to let it go, as the main characters does. And when you let it go, there is something that could happen, is that you could understand the whole story on another level, which is a more emotional level, because I didn't want the father to be just a play for the mind. He had to lead to something more emotional, more simple in a way. And even though the narrative is itself, it's quite complex, I think that in the end, where we are going, the destination is very, very simple. You know, it's basically it's a man crying for his mother to come and save her, and as if he was like a baby or a very, very young boy. And you know, my desire was to go to this place, you know, this pure emotional and very simple place. And this is, I think, where we went, thanks to this amazing generosity that Anthony had for this film, because he gave
Yes,
everything. I mean, he was really, really.
I know though that putting the words on the page and then having an actor take it, but what you want is for them to absorb it. What you want is for them to then it come pouring out in terms of what your concept was. And I mean, Anthony Hopkins is so extraordinary in this portrayal. I love his work, and I've watched him and riveted by it. But somehow I just, I was watching him, as I said, come apart in this piece, and then roar back to, because he's got an ego, he's got
Yeah.
anger, and then lose it again and coming in and out. I hope you were, because you obviously work with a lot of great actors in this particular piece. And as I said, I give you full credit for creating that role. But as we both know, you can create a role and then you've got to let somebody step into it. And they will make it greater than than it reads on the page, right?
Yes, exactly. And as I said, the main character's name is Anthony. And when we first met, he was a bit disturbed. He was like, is it really a good idea to keep that name as if it was mine? And I made the decision to keep it because I thought that it would be, an opportunity without talking too much for him to feel connected to his own personal emotions, because in a way he had to deal with, let's say, his own mortality. And sometimes it was almost painful, in the process of the shooting. And he was really courageous, because I think that he had he was brave to do that part, because he's still this artist putting himself at risk and trying to explore something new, something that he hasn't done yet, in a way. And it was a lot about, being connected to this, yes, maybe this painful mortality or painful feeling of mortality, his own mortality. And, when it happened during the shooting, especially for the last scene, it was really powerful and moving for all of us on set to see those emotions overwhelming him, but also ourselves and also the set itself. It was really powerful what he did.
Well, I think that when we look at an oeuvre, you look at someone's work, great actor's work. That's the thing. I remember when he was a young man and he had this great role, and then in his middle period. The problem is, when someone reaches a certain point in their career, at the end of their career, they don't have the roles they've played. What you've done is handed him, King Lear. You've handed him this fantastic role for the right age, and he had to. I mean, great artists are brave. They're looking for opportunities to. They're cautious, but you obviously handed him something he could really sink his teeth into, and then confront death in his own way that I'm sure was very personal. It's an extraordinary piece for that reason. I don't want to leave out you wrote this in French, and Christopher Hampton, from what I understand, translated it. And that's very difficult for a consummate author to then let somebody else translate it into another language. And then I noticed that you and he collaborated on the script. Was that a good collaboration?
Yes, it was a great collaboration because we had this friendship almost together because he has translated all my plays into English, and so we shared so many moments together in London or in New York, for our plays. So even though we don't speak the same language, there is somewhere we do speak the same language. We understand each other very well. And because I wanted to do that film in English, and as you can hear, my English is, I mean, I'm not fluent. He was really helpful in the process. And so we wrote the script together, and it was like a conversation between he and I, and it was immensely helpful to me. Yeah, and he's such a great writer and such a great friend as well.
Yes, that's great. Now, to end this, I want to talk to you about yourself as a film director. Was this daunting for you? Because obviously you've written novels, you've written plays, you've had a huge amount of success. Now you're walking up and saying you're walking onto a set with this army of collaborators, from set decorators to costumers to sound people to cinematographers, grips, sparks, the whole thing. And how did that feel? And, was it exhilarating? Was it terrifying? Was it all of those things?
As you know, it was all of that. But no, the main feeling was the joy, to have this opportunity to do the film you really want to do. I mean, sometimes it was difficult, sometimes you need energy, but I was always grateful that I had this opportunity because it's not nothing, and it's really thanks to everyone, but especially thanks to the actors, Olivia Colman and Anthony Hopkins. They are so humble in a way. They are here to serve the story, and they gave me the opportunity to do exactly the film I wanted to make, which is to me amazing. And before that, I come from the stage, so my life was to write stories and to play to work with actors. So it was a bit like the continuation of what I was doing before, but the joy and the excitement to share a moment with all a team, to try to be focused, just to tell a story and to share those emotions. It's something that was really, really, I mean, it was the best experience of my life.
All right. Now, I think that any director who has done their first film, you always say, if I only knew at the beginning of the film what I know at the end of the film, I've learned so much. But at this point, you've done it. You've done it beautifully, I might say. My complimenti. However, now you have to look to the future. Are you going to do it again? Are you going to write something specific for the screen? How do you feel?
I feel like no, I profoundly have the desire to make another film, of course, and I have a desire to do. There is another play of mine called The Son, and because the father is part of the trilogy that I wrote with the son and the mother, and The Son is a film that I would love to make.
Great. Well, Florian, I want to just express my admiration. I think you've done, as I said, the work as a writer is extraordinary. And of course, you wrote something that the cheese that attracted the mouse. Those actors, I'm sure, realized what they had. But what I don't think they realized was the fact that you had also the talent to transcend what you had on stage, and in this film make something that was truly cinematic. So I think that is a great accomplishment. I congratulate you. And in this award season, I wish you all the best of luck. But, that awards thing is up and down and all over the place. And in a way, it's the roll of the dice. What you've done, I think, is create and put on film a life experience and an understanding of that life experience from the person in the center, the person who we all look at and say, oh, isn't that too bad they've lost it? And you can see this character struggling with their life, with their mind. And I think that's an extraordinary thing, and this film will live for a long time. So congratulations.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you so much for this moment. You know, it means a lot to me. I'm a great fan of your work, and so I'm so happy to have this moment with you. Thank you so much.
Great. Cheers.